first practice problem. Let's read it together. Jeff rented a truck for 1 day. There was a base fee of $16.99, and there was an additional charge of 94 cents for each mile driven. Jeff had to pay $267.97 when he returned the truck. For how many miles did he drive the truck? Our first question here is, for how many miles did he drive the truck? We need to define a variable. We will let M represent the number of miles that Jeff drives in the equation below. Jeff had a base fee of $16.99. He also had to pay an additional charge of 94 cents per each mile driven. So we are going to add 0.94 times each mile driven. I'm going to use the variable M. I would also like to note here that this is 0.94 because it is cents. It is not a full dollar. So you need to work on conversions. And altogether he paid $267.97. So this is our equation to start out. The first thing that we do, this is like a two-step, is to remove the number that has no variable. And we are moving it to the other side. Because I subtracted $16.99 from this side, both of these cancel out, leaving us with just 94 cents times M equaling what is left over. $267.97 subtract $16.99. We get $250.98. The next step is to get M alone, which is the miles driven. We need to divide by 0.94 or 94 cents because together these are multiplied. We do the opposite, so we divide. Same thing on this side. Divide by 0.94, leaving us with M to be alone. We get left with M equals 250.98 divided by 0.94 equals 267 miles driven.
Let's read the next example problem together. Leela purchased a prepaid phone card for $25. Long distance calls cost 23 cents a minute using this card. Leela used her card only once to make a long distance call. If the remaining credit on her card is $14.65, how many minutes did her call last? The first step is to define our variable. We are trying to find minutes, so we will let M equal the number of minutes. After you've defined the variable, the next thing is to locate key words or phrases in the problem. Remaining is can be translated to be equals. When we are finished, there will be $14.65 on the phone card. Our first sentence gives us a starting point of 25. As she talks using the card, the value you see is going to decrease, which tells me that I'm going to subtract as I create my equation. And the other phrase that catches my eye is 23 cents a minute. 1 minute would be 23 cents, 2 minutes would be 46 cents, etc. It's going to be 23 cents per minute, and let's not forget the decimal point because we are given information in cents, whereas the other numbers in the problem are in dollars. And I really want to remind you all that's going to be an important part of the I-STEP test, converting factors such as minutes to hours, feet to miles, maybe dollars to cents. Just be aware of the conversion part of the problem. Now I'm ready to solve the equation. Notice that the subtraction goes with the variable. It might be helpful to go ahead and just add the opposite, because I won't talk about minus 0.23 m, I'm going to talk about negative 0.23 m. And the other point I want to make is that the negative sign belongs to the coefficient in the variable. 25 is positive. I'm going to subtract 25 to both sides. 25 minus 25 is 0, which leaves me negative 0.23 m. And when I subtract 14.65 minus 25, you see I get a negative number. Don't worry about the negative sign. Watch what happens next. 0.23 m reads as multiplication, so you cancel multiplication by dividing. And don't forget the coefficient is negative, so I'm dividing both sides by negative 0.23. Dividing by negative 0.23. So reviewing the rules for dividing integers, we have a negative divided by negative, which is a positive. 0.23 and 0.23 will just be 1m. Negative divided by negative is a positive. Negative 10.35 divided by negative 0.23 is. The solution is 45. It's important that you be able to explain what the solution means in the context of the problem. 45 equals m, where m stands for minutes. If the remaining credit on her card is this amount, how many minutes did her call last? Layla made a call that was 45 minutes long.
All right, our last example, Ryan rented a truck for 1 day. There was a base fee of $20.99, and there was an additional charge of 76 cents for each mile driven. Ryan had to pay $178.31 when he returned the truck. For how many miles did he drive the truck? So the first thing that I want to do is define the variable, and remember the variable is always the question, how many miles? So I'm going to let m equal the number of miles. The next thing that I want to do is look back at my question, and I'm going to underline anything that stands out or is important. So there's a base fee of $20.99, and that's the starting fee. So I'm just going to write the word start next to that. And there's an additional charge of 76 cents for each mile. So I need to note two things. One, that's going to be multiplication. 76 cents for each mile is the same thing as saying 76 cents per mile. But also I want to notice that I'm going from dollars to cents. So I'm actually just going to go ahead and write that right there to remind me. 76 cents per mile. And I'm going to know it's multiplication, so I'm going to go ahead and put the symbol that I'm going to use right there. Ryan had to pay $178.31. This is the total, so whatever I do has to equal that. So this is the ending value. Okay? So I'm going to take that information and go ahead and write us an equation. So my starting amount, $20.99 plus the 76 cents per mile is $178.31. And I know that Ms. Phelps and Mr. Turner both talked to you about this. It is super important that you pay attention, especially with ISEP coming up. You're going to see conversions within a problem of dollars and cents, feet and inches. And you notice how they just kind of snuck that in there. They didn't put a decimal here or anything. They used the word cents. So make sure that you're on your toes. Use those cues that we taught you to underline numbers and important phrases to kind of help you be aware of that conversion. Okay? So I'm going to go ahead and solve this. And the first thing that I'm going to do, I'm going to use the steps to solving an equation. And this is a two-step equation. So remember, if you've had me in class before, I say there are 4 steps to solving a two-step equation. Number 1, I'm going to draw the river. Number 2, I'm going to take my hand and I'm going to cover up the term that has the variable with it. So I'm covering this up, and then I'm going to look and see what I need to get away, or what do I need to remove to get this variable term all by itself. And I see that I need to remove this $20.99. So the opposite, or the undo of a positive $20.99 is a negative $20.99. I also need to remember rules of an equation, which is whatever I do on one side, I must do to the other. Trying to line up my decimals as I do that. And then I'm going to go ahead and just draw this line below and do some subtraction. 20 minus 20, or 20.99 minus 20.99 cancels out, and I'm left with a 0.76 m equals 178.31 minus 20.99 is 157.32. All right, step number 4 is to undo multiplication or division. Undo multiplication or division. Well, I know that 76m, or 0.76 m, that's a multiplication, so the undo of multiply is divide. I'm going to divide both sides, because whatever I do on one side, I must do on the other. 0.76. This cancels out on the left, so I have m equals 207. So I'm going to go back up to my question and I'm going to read that last sentence. I'm going to read that last sentence or last part of the question to see what I'm looking for. And does my answer make sense? For how many miles did he drive the truck? He drove the truck 207 miles. He drove the truck 207 miles. And that's it.